Now, we're going to get a hold of Dan right now. So let's see if he's there.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I just snuck us another Swedish fish while we're waiting here.
Gummy.
Bum, bum, bum. And he's not answering. Okay, well, try and find another scary story quick while I look and see if I had the right phone number. Knowing me, I could have had whoever number. Here.
Well, it's almost coming up on 31 years of the anniversary of my Halloween adventure in the woods. Remember that one?
Yeah, I do.
Some people might not know. But I'll tell that one. That's pretty quick. So I lived on the East Coast for, I don't know, a few years, and I had a friend there, and he knew all the local haunts. So he was like my scout, and I always would investigate by myself. So on Halloween night, I said, give me something good. So he handed me a piece of paper with directions, and I knew where it was because it's just a little area. You can't get lost. So I go there. It's probably 11:30, quarter to midnight, park the truck. I get out. So I start going up over this hill. And off in the distance, like down on the bottom of the other side of the hill, you can tell somebody's got a fire going. And I can hear like people talking, but I couldn't understand what they were saying. So I get up over this little knoll at the edge of the tree line. I don't know, probably 30, 40 yards from them. And I'm like, I very slowly, I'm on the ground, all fours. I reach my head up just over this log. And there's, I don't know, 12 dozen people, 13 of them, and they all got robes on, and they're like dancing around this big old bonfire, and they got a goat tied to this table, and there's a machete on the table. And I'm thinking right away when I see that, I'm like, oh, hell no, I'm not, who am I to crash their barbecue? I am not, So I very slowly ducked my head back down, and I'm going to tell you something. I backed out of there I did not want them to hear me. And to come to find out, that land there was a lot of stuff on that land, and at the time, there was a lot of cults. They were getting homeless people and prostitutes, and they were killing them and torturing them. And God, oh boy, I was lucky. If they'd have seen me, Gary, God knows, I might not be here.
Well, that's the whole thing is, you gotta be. Did you tell people even where you were going to be at?
Well, the only one I knew was my friend, and because he gave me the directions, but that was it because I didn't really know anybody at the time where I was on the East Coast, and that's another thing. You need to tell a few people, and I learned from my mistakes. Luckily, nothing bad happened, and years later, I seen this one movie, and I think it had Warren Oates in it and Peter Fonda. They were camping with their wives, and it was almost the same scenario. It was like I seen this movie like 4 years ago, and the event that happened to me was in 1988. But when I seen it was like a flashback. Oh my God, because it was the same scenario. They were doing about the same thing. Only these people heard them, and then they spent the next 2 days chasing them and trying to run them down and kill them. So it was bizarre.
Well, you were lucky. Well, let's try giving Dan another call and see. Maybe he couldn't, because of traffic on Friday, he couldn't make it home in time. I don't know. Well, let's see.
Ringing.
Yeah, it was ringing last time, but nobody picked up.
Hello?
Oh, guess what? He just answered, and I hung up, so I'm going to try calling back. Wow.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic...
I hate those answering machines. Okay, well.
I think you're both trying to call each other at the same time.
Yeah, well, I think he's calling me back. Hi, this is Gary at Night Dreams Talk Radio. Is this Dan?
Yeah, this is Dan.
This is
What's up, Gary?
Hey, same thing that happens every night. I'm behind the microphone talking to people like you. Hey, Dan, you want to tell the people what you do?
Yeah, I actually do paranormal research with the Paranormal Research Institute. Can you hang on a sec? I'm doing my other job right at the moment. I'm a mixologist. So
okay, yeah, I can hang on for a second.
Let me get over here where you can maybe hear me a little bit.
Okay, that's fine.
Hey.
I'll have
Dan,
is that a little bit better for you?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll have a whiskey sour blended.
Yeah, I'm working at a blues festival here in LaSalle, Illinois, so it was a little bit loud.
Oh, wow. Hey, that sounds exciting.
Oh, yeah, it's a great time.
Now, are you going to have a couple minutes to talk, or are you going to be interrupted, or?
I thought we were scheduled for an hour from now. Can I call you back in like 2 minutes? Let me go make sure that I didn't walk away from 5 people.
Okay, let's do that.
And I'll go find someplace quiet and call you right back.
Okay, that works.
All right, call you.
Okay, well, I guess I'm getting senile besides old. You know that.
Well, that's a heck of a combination right there, Gary.
Yeah, I tell you, it's been a real hectic day. You know, my son has these big dogs. One of my sons moved back home, and these dogs are up to, oh, God, they're taller than me when they get on their 2 legs. And I tell you, they're not that old yet. They're not well behaved. And I'll tell you, they run around the house, and I tell you what, yeah.
So what color are his chihuahuas?
I wish they were. I don't even know what these dogs are. They're all I can say is they're huge.
Like Great Dane huge?
Yeah, that's what they are, Great Danes.
Oh, well, there you go. That's a Yahtzee.
Yeah.
You should saddle them up and ride around the house, the compound there.
Yeah, well, we got an indoor kennel we put them into when they start misbehaving. But then you hear the barking, which, thank God I got a pretty much soundproof room. But, getting in, we'll wait for Dan to call so we can just talk. I get scared yet. You go out in the woods, like Sam talks about these little people. How does he not know that those are not those little people that like eating people?
Well, you know what it reminds me of? You ever see that movie? What's it called? Where the guy, like, there's little people and they get the regular guy, the big guy, tied down on the ground. They tie him down. What's that? I can't think of them. Gulliver's Travels, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what if that ever happened to Sam? My goodness, it doesn't take but 100 bunch of little people get you tied down, and then what? They're gonna, do anything to you.
Well, they'll probably wait till you're in your sleeping bag, and then they'll take their twine and tie you up.
Yeah, I think that's what they do. They wait till you're sleeping, and you wake up and you can't move.
Yeah, and they could have a whole family, like a couple hundred of those little critters, right? And you can be the barbecue.
Yeah, you could be their lone pig for a long time, that's for sure. Yeah. My goodness.
I don't know.
That's scary. And I've seen those pictures he's had before. Some of them's got beer. Looks like one of them even had a pipe at one of them pictures.
Oh, you saw that too? That was interesting. Then I saw the one like it had a helmet on, and then I saw one that looked like it had a crown on. Okay, we got Dan back here, so let's answer it. Okay, you got Night Dreams Talk Radio. This is Gary.
Hey, Gary, what's going on? This is Dan again. I think I'm actually in someplace quiet, and I don't have 12 people waiting for a drink, so we're good to go.
Okay, so tell people what you actually do. You're a ghost hunter. You got sophisticated equipment. Let's go from there.
Yeah, we're trying to combine what we call cartography, which is it's a neutral third party that sits outside of the investigation. And our investigators will call back to the cartographer whenever anything happens, and they keep a log on it. So by the end of the night, we have a full log of temperature, barometric pressure, what event happened, exactly when it happened, etc. And it's all done by an objective observer. So they're not actually emotionally involved in the investigation or anything. And that gives them a chance to kind of put the facts down the way that they are. And so we then compare the cartography log at the end of an investigation night with a random number generator. We've built a TRNG, so it's a true random number generator. And basically, very simply, it's an electronic coin flipper. And what it does is it flips coins a series of 100 times. And if it goes more than 66 times of either heads or tails, we register that as a hit. So statistically, we've been running during inactive locations. We're running much higher than we would normally run if it was just sitting in a, quote, non-haunted or non-active location. Up to 3, 4, even 5 times higher on the statistical hits. And so what we do at the end of the night is we will compare how many hits we had on the RNG, and we look for 3 minutes before and after the event and see how many paranormal events actually correlate with an RNG hit. So we end up with, at the end of the night, usually about a 70 to 75% success rate where we have a paranormal event that happens right, within that window of an RNG event.
Interesting.
So basically, we're able to statistically show an active location.
What type of things are you finding? What's the creepiest and scariest when you go out and ghost hunt you found so far?
Well, I mean, we've heard phantom screams, and we've seen shadow figures, things like that. Quite honestly, we've taken it down as far into the science that it does, we kind of lose the creepy factor a little bit. It kind of takes that away from us, and we end up with more scientific data. That was kind of the whole purpose when we founded the Paranormal Research Institute, was just to start looking at this, looking at the events a little more scientifically. We figured there was plenty of people that were out there that were trying to be scared, and we're doing it for thrills, but we really wanted to know exactly what makes things tick. And so yeah, we've seen a lot of really, really cool things and a lot of things we can't explain, but scary is kind of a relative term.
Wow.
Hey Dan, how long have you been? This is James. How you doing, Dan? How long have you been running
James.
these? How you doing? How long have you been running these experiments?
We started the RNG experiments, let me think, it was Thanksgiving of last year. So Thanksgiving of 2018, I believe it was. So we've been running them on and off for a year now. It takes a long time because we break it down to a minute-by-minute type of thing. And so by the time we get all the data reviewed and get the log files completed and do all the cross-referencing, and then we send it out to our third-party statistician. Dave Schumacher has gracefully has volunteered to help us out with this. And so once we get all the data done, he does all the statistical analysis on it. So usually it takes 3 to 4 months to do a complete investigation by the time we're done and the data's analyzed.
Interesting.
Yep.
Doing what you do, I find, like with ghost hunters, sometimes they go into a place and weird things happen. James, that one ex-detective, a retired detective, that went into a place and like quarters were dropping from the ceiling and stuff like that. Do you remember that?
Yes, my friend Mark Keys.
Now, have you walked?
Okay.
Have you walked into any strange things in situations like that, or anything? Not money dropping. It'd be nice if it was dollar bills dropping instead of quarters, though.
Yeah. Old silver dollars.
I actually did have a dime manifest one time. Actually, with the quarter thing, the most interesting thing, I used to work in a bar that was a very active bar. It was an Irish bar from back in the 1800s in a town real close to mine. And New Year's Eve, it was very quiet in there, and I had just wiped the bar down, and nothing going on. No one was in there. No one left. And I walked back down, and there was a quarter sitting in the middle of the bar. And I thought, wow, that's really strange. And then I looked at the quarter, and it was actually dated 1908. So it was a 1908 Barber quarter.
Oh, wow.
So that was very strange.
Nice.
Yeah, that was,
nice.
and it absolutely out of nowhere. And, so, yeah, you end up with things that just you can't kind of explain that sort of happen. I think the more you do this, I don't know whether entities go, hey, these guys look at this kind of thing, so I can hang around with them and mess with them or what. But it seems like the more often you do it, the more things you see happen.
Well, I had back myself in the early 90s. I took a 10-year break from broadcasting, and I managed 3 professional camera stores. One was in downtown Tacoma. The building went back to around 1870, 1880. Originally, it was like a 13, 14-story hotel. Of course, they took some in the late 60s. They cut it down half because it was not safe anymore. But it originally was a brothel at one point. And, that was our main warehouse, our main store. And also I did camera repair myself as a technician. And I'd be down there late at night cleaning sensors on digital cameras because I had to be in a dust-free environment. And I started hearing footsteps going up, going upstairs because the original staircase for the hotel was right on the opposite side of my office. And and then it started out with footsteps. Then it started later going to multiple footsteps. Then it was going multiple footsteps with muffled talking. And I'll tell you, that's the part I went up to the owner and I said, you know what? Here's my notice. I'm not working here anymore.
Yeah, it can definitely make the hair stand up on end when you know that the building is absolutely empty and